What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the overall market so far, as we have important economic data coming out for tomorrow, what's going on with other factors involving the options chain for SPY, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I continue down this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon in just 4 days. Anyways, for the market right now, we're seeing something very interesting developing. So SPY was holding this support. I was calling out this support in my early morning video. I mentioned that you want to be watching to see how well SPY holds right there. If we zoom out of the chart like this, you will see that SPY basically bounced off the support many, many times. Look at this white line that's slicing through the screen. You can see it bounced off this once, twice. Then we got this very, very nice breakout to the all-time high thanks to Jerome Powell. Then we came all the way back down, and we're still maintaining this uptrend as we got 2 more bounces in the last 24 hours. So you can see it right over here. There was a bounce right here. We came back up, returned, bounced again. This thing got a breakout at the very end of the day, trying to hold and close above 522. Now, whether we get a continuation move or not could depend a lot on the data that comes out for tomorrow, as we have some important GDP numbers. So I'm going to talk more about the data and stuff before I break down what the charts are suggesting. So I want to mention that tomorrow is going to be Thursday, March 28th. It's a very, very important day because an hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the GDP growth rate coming out. We want this to be around 3.2%. And we want the GDP numbers to be very close to expectations, if not higher than expected for most of them. For some of them, such as the GDP price index, this would be fine if it's like within expectations. That's probably what the market wants to see. And overall, we want to see prices basically maintain their expectations while GDP maintains its strength. That's kind of like what the market's going for. Why is that? That's because the market is once again betting on the soft landing. The market's rallying because it believes there's going to be a soft landing. Things aren't going to be as bad. Jerome Powell, he's kind of fueling that whole narrative that things are not as bad as many people think they are. Inflation is tanking. The Fed is going to cut soon. That's the view the market has. So anything that kind of like supports that narrative could be used easily as an excuse for these institutions to pump the market even more. But the same thing could also happen the opposite way, depending on what these market makers try to do. We also have initial jobless claims, excuse me, guys. Initial jobless claims coming out at 8:30 a.m. an hour before market open. We want this to be between 212 and 215,000, so watch for that as well. And then after that, the market's going to open at 9:45 a.m. So 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the Chicago PMI report. And then 30 minutes after market open at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have a lot of data coming out. We have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report coming out. We're going to find out about the 5-year inflationary expectations, what's going on with the inflationary expectations for the month of March, and the list goes on. Then we have more manufacturing numbers coming out at 11 o'clock a.m., followed by the 4-week and 8-week bill auctions coming out at 11:30. So we have quite a bit of data coming out for tomorrow. It's going to be very, very important throughout the day. Most of these are not like insanely significant, but I would say the most important thing is going to be the GDP numbers in the morning. So we'll see if this launches the market even higher or if the market gets a little pullback. We'll be watching this very, very carefully. Now, I also want to add that in terms of data, right now, the market is getting closer to the extreme greed. We're seeing more buyers stepping in again, defending their positions, trying to push the market up higher, and the market's becoming a bit more greedy. We're seeing the market at extreme greed in terms of market momentum. We're also seeing big changes to the put and call option positioning. We're seeing a little decrease sort of here in terms of this ratio because what's happening is we're starting to see a little bit more call buying and some puts are being closed. That's why our overall ratios are dropping throughout the market, and the same thing's happening on SPY specifically. Market volatility is also dropping. The VIX is showing more weakness again. If this continues to fall, once again, it's because of the market pushing us up even higher. So generally, when the VIX is at these lows, we do see a big bounce coming, meaning the market may get a big rug pull in the future. That's what this kind of suggests, but it does not mean it has to start tomorrow. It doesn't mean it has to start immediately. It could take a couple of weeks. Always remember that because whatever goes up could always go higher, and don't solely depend on the past to determine the future when it comes to the way the market moves, right? You also have to look at the context of things. Maybe we're not ready to start falling yet. Maybe the market needs more time. We have to take all of that into consideration. So the last thing I want to talk about would be the economic data before I break down more things like this. So in terms of the options chain, I just want to say that the option chain right now is very interesting. For March 27th, which was today, we had max pain at 520. SPY actually went up. The option chain didn't really affect us that much. But for tomorrow is going to be a very important day because we have just under 500,000 calls expiring. So we saw a lot of people buying calls, getting back into their exposure for the markets. And then we have over 2 million puts expiring. Almost all of them are out of the money. Now, 434 or 4.34 is going to be our puts to call ratio, meaning there are 4.34 puts for every call out there. And the market makers are continuing to hold the market up. There are two possibilities I see. There are three possibilities. Number one, this means the market makers may push the market up higher and hurt even more shorts, causing a squeeze. That's the first possibility. Could that happen? Yes, it could, but that depends on other factors. The second possibility is the market kind of stays stationary and stagnant, which I find to be less probable after seeing the increase in volatility that we saw from today. And then the last possibility is we kind of like pop in the morning, then we end up getting a sell off at the very end of the day because max pain's at like 516. If it does maintain a level below, they could bring us closer to max pain to hurt both sides, calls and puts. So I'm open to basically anything for close, but I can tell you something about market open based off technicals. So I want to say that the market has a tendency of actually having some positive reactions to a lot of this data. This will depend on the GDP numbers. Whatever we end up doing depends on them tomorrow morning. So that's kind of difficult to predict, but I can tell you that right now this chart is looking kind of bouncy. The reason for that is because you have to note that we're holding support. We're getting bought at support many, many times. The last time we got bought at support, we pushed up, came back down, pushed up even higher. Right here, we hit the support, pushed up, came back down. Now we pushed even higher. So this chart is looking a bit more bullish. We have a nice accumulation right over here. This also resembles an inverse head and shoulders, and it looks like it could continue higher. So watch 523 is resistance. If we break this, watch 524 flat, then 525. I know it's kind of like I know it's very bizarre to be calling every dollar level out like that, but that's the way SPY is moving right now because we're approaching the all-time high, and every dollar level is becoming tight resistance as this thing continues to go higher. For support, watch 522. If we lose this, we have this white trend line to be watching for depending on the timing. It could be at like 520.5, it could be 521. Depending on the timing which we hit this is going to be our support. And if we lose this, we could be coming all the way back down to about 518. So I'll be watching that very, very carefully. What's the most likely possibility is this, in my opinion, depending on how we open during the pre-market, SPY will either come to this trend line at this 522 area and then get a big break off the GDP numbers. Then we'll see what it does from here when it approaches the all-time high, if it rejects or not, or if it keeps going. Or we get a rejection initially, we come back down to this like support, and then we get a continuation higher to like close the week. Something like this is also like another big possibility. So we'll have to see if we end up forming something like this. Either way, I do see us coming down just a little bit towards 522. We'll see if we bounce here, but then we could be looking for a big rebound, and we could be testing 524 as soon as tomorrow. There's a very good chance we will test that, but we'll see how low we go depending on the GDP numbers and then when we get that break. So I anticipate the market is going to be bullish, but I think that we might come down first and then try to get that bounce. This is the most likely possibility right here. So watch your levels and just know that there is potential in this market. What else is showing a lot of life is Tesla. Now, Tesla is on a bit of an uptrend right over here. You guys can see it's trying to push higher and higher. We could even redraw this trend line like this, depending on how you want to do it. But either way, Tesla is trying to uptrend. We actually saw buyers defend it. The news is all over the place. Some things were negative, some things were positive. But I want to say that there's a pattern on Tesla. Tesla loves to pop and drop. It did this for the last 3 days upon open. If you look at Monday, for example, right, we popped and dropped. Tuesday, we popped and dropped. Today, we popped, dropped, then popped again. So tomorrow, it's very likely that Tesla's going to get a big push when we open. It also depends on the news. Of course, I can't always predict that, but based off technicals, that is very likely. Look for a test of 182, if not 184. Could retest this liquidity zone, come back down, retest the support, and then come back up. There's a very, very good chance it could see a pop and drop like move. So watch for that. On the QQQ, we're looking pretty all right now. I would say that right now, the QQQ is in a very, very critical place. I might want to redraw this trend line and form like a different channel. So we could actually draw this as one of our supports. Now we can have a top line like right here just to connect our resistance as well. So we have a very, very interesting looking channel developing on the triple Q. And you can see it is downtrending just a bit, but this is going to depend a lot on how we react to support. So Going into tomorrow, I think like SPY is going to come down a bit. You're going to be watching the support at 444. This is heavily dictated by Nvidia and Apple. Nvidia has a big effect on the QQQ from what I've seen. I would say watch 444. If we lose this, we could be retesting this trend line right here, which is going to be around 443 or so. Then we have 442 as support. If we lose that, 440 is coming next. And then we have resistance at this white trend line. If we do break through this, we're going to be looking for a push to 446 plus, eventually 448. So I find it very likely that the QQQ comes down a bit, retests this 443.8 area, if not a little bit lower. And then we're going to be watching to see if we get a big bounce and a breakout above this white trend line or not. But I do believe that's going to come down and try to rebound. And there could be a break coming if we get some good GDP numbers. Otherwise, the QQQ is on a bit of a downtrend. So we're downtrending on the QQQ. It's going to likely come down a bit, but we're going to be watching to see if we can get a bounce thanks to the GDP numbers if we do see some good data. So there's a chance it might actually come back down here and try to break out to 446 again if we get good numbers. I think there's a good chance that's a strong possibility if we try to break this resistance. So watch for that very carefully. We'll see if we get that break. Part of why I'm talking about that is because of Aapl. So if you look at Aapl, we're testing resistance very close to 173, this zone right here. If we break through this and we continue to hold, I'm going to be looking for a move all the way up to 175. We have this big imbalance. I think we could get closer to 175 if we break past this 173 resistance. If we fail to do so, watch 172.5 as support. If we lose that, a bigger drop is coming towards 170.9 and 170. So I think that with this uptrend potentially coming, I think there is potential for this to push all the way up to much higher levels. So we'll see if we get a big move to the upside from here. I think that personally, Apple's going to come down first, maybe retest 172.5, consolidate for a bit, then we'll see if we get a big move to the upside. But I think that's going to come down first. Nvidia is not looking that great. I do see a double bottom like structure, but this depends on how we end up reacting to 900. We're barely at 900, kind of trading sideways. We had a head and shoulders like structure, which led to a sell off, which we called out. Watch 892 to about 885, this range right here. If we come down, we could grab liquidity here and then bounce. But if we jump on the data from the morning, we could just break 908 flat. So I think that it all depends on the range. We're kind of range bound right now. If we could manage to break or hold above 900, there is potential for us to get above 908 and then start pushing towards these resistance levels, such as 908 and eventually like 920. If we fail to do so and we lose, 892, we turn bearish. My gut is telling me personally that they're grabbing some liquidity. This might come down a bit in an attempt to bounce and try to hit 908 plus. There might be a bounce coming on this because of how hard we dropped today. We know Nvidia is a stock that doesn't like to drop too much, and we have to note that the GDP numbers may affect us, so there could be a bounce coming. I'll be watching to see if we get back above 908 to see if this holds because we're seeing some buyers defending it at 900, so they may try to push it a little bit higher. With that being said, let's go over a couple more. We have Super Micro right over here. This thing is, in my opinion, on a bit of a downtrend. You guys can actually see how it's been fighting this resistance right over here. So we're seeing some weakness on the chart unless we get a break from this resistance. And we're starting to downtrend a bit. So you want to be very careful right here just to see how well this holds up. Right here, you guys can see we're continuing to downtrend on Super Micro. If we break this resistance, I think we're going to be heading all the way back up towards at least 1,050. If we reject right here, we're going to be coming all the way down to about 980 or below that. So in my opinion, with this downtrend coming, we have this big rejection here trying to rebound a bit. We'll have to see if we could try to bounce or not. As of right now, it's on the downtrend, so there's no sign of a breakout yet. So watch to see if we get that breakouts tomorrow. I do have a feeling it might try to break out. So watch and see if we get that bounce or not. Maybe it depends on the GDP numbers and what Nvidia does. But so far, the chart is kind of weak. It's on a bit of a downtrend. There's no breakouts just yet. For Rivian is showing a little bit of life. Now, you could call out that Rivian has this like massive looking head and shoulders, and we have resistance that's coming. But what's good about Rivian is the fact that we're back above our supports at this, 10.8 area. So if we do try to hold above this, we could be pushing back up to about this resistance at 11.2. If we do hold above 11, if we fail to do so and we lose 10.8, we turn bearish. So it's very simple. If you lose 10.8, you're bearish. If you break past 11, we turn a little bullish. Right now, it's kind of in the middle, kind of range bound, but I do see some potential for it to attempt to change. On the 4-hour time frame, I'm seeing some potential for this as well. I'm going to be actually pulling up something different. I do see potential for this to try to rebound a little bit, to try to get back up to 11.2. I don't think it's going to be that good of a move, but I do see a little potential there. For SoFi is going to be approaching this resistance at 7.4. Now, you could argue this is kind of resembling like a head and shoulders like structure. If we break past 7.4, look for a push all the way up to 7.8. If we fail there, we're going to be coming back down. As of right now, SoFi does not look very fun to trade. It's very boring, trading sideways within a very, very tight range. So it looks to me like it might pop a little bit and come back down and trade sideways. That's the most likely possibility. AMD is also doing the same thing, very boring, but it's trying to hold above 177. If we hold above this, look for a bounce towards 182 soon, then eventually a breakout to 187. If we do hold, if we lose 177, or close below it, we turn a bit more bearish. As of right now, it's just trying to base right here. It's just trading sideways, not really doing much. We'll just have to wait and see which way it breaks, but I do see potential for it to bounce if we could hold above 177. ARM is looking a bit more bearish. We were saying this in my previous video. I would say to watch the support. Now we're approaching key support around 120. Basically, it's around 122. So look for a retest of 122 and see if we get some kind of bounce from here. There is a chance it tries to bounce off 122. I think it's going to drop a bit more and see if it bounces. If it does lose 122, a bigger drop is coming towards like this 120 support. I think 122 is going to be key, so we'll see if we bounce or not. So we'll see how that goes. For Coinbase, in my opinion, is looking a little bit weak. As of right now, I'm going to be watching the support around 251 or so. If we hold above 251, I'm sorry, it's 252. If we hold above 252, we're going to be looking for a bounce back up. This could be forming kind of like a head and shoulders like structure, something like that. So if we hold support right here at 252, we could actually try to make our way back up to about 270. If we lose 252, we're going to turn a lot more bearish. My gut is telling me that it's going to attempt to get a rebound for now before it makes another move. So we'll look for a test of 252, then a bounce, and we'll see how it goes from there. For Amazon, in my opinion, is approaching some resistance in this 180 area. If we fail to break this, we're going to be looking for a move back down to 178, if not 177.5. And if we hold above 180, we could be looking for a push. In my opinion, I think that we're at some tight resistance, so it might just trade sideways within this range. So it might come down, back down to 178, then push back up and continue to trade sideways. If we hold above 180, we're going to be looking for a move all the way back up. My gut is telling me it's actually gaining a little bit of strength right here, so it might actually shuffle at this 180 area for some time, but I have a feeling it might try to break a little higher to 181 again. So that's why I think it's a little bit more likely. I went over the bullish and bearish cases, but just know that there's a chance it might come down and start pushing up higher temporarily. For Meta is on a bit of a downtrend. We actually have this resistance to be watching for around 495. If we reject off here, we could continue to sink back down lower to about 481. So just be a little bit careful as this thing is dropping, excuse me. But to turn bullish, you want to see it break and hold above 494. Hasn't done so yet. We're on a bit of a downtrend. Hasn't gone to break quite yet, so we have to give it some time. I want to mention that on the 4-hour time frame, Meta happens to have this like falling wedge like structure. Might be better if I switch to the hourly to draw this, but this does kind of resemble a falling wedge, which could lead to some kind of attempts to go up. But we're not really ready to break out yet. I'm not really seeing a sign of it, so I think it's best to just be a little bit patient on this one, give this one a little bit more time, and we'll see how it goes. But for now, I just want to mention that there's a slight falling wedge forming on Meta, so there could be a bounce coming later. May downtrend for a little bit longer before we get some kind of breakout and a move back up. As of right now, watch this wedge on Meta. Just give it some time on the hourly time frame or so, and we'll see how it goes. We're not ready to break out yet. For Microsoft, we started off kind of weak. We're trying to rebound a bit. We're going to be watching support now at 420.5. If we lose that, we're going to be dropping all the way down towards 415. If we continue to close above 420.5, look for a bounce all the way back up to about 423 and then 425. As of right now, we're barely holding support on Microsoft, so we'll have to see how it goes. But I see a little bit of potential right there. Onto the VIX. The VIX is on a bit of a downtrend. We're going to be watching our support at 12.43. If we lose this, bigger drop is going to be coming all the way down towards the 11s. Now, the VIX is kind of dangerous. It does love to bounce around this support, but we're not ready for that just yet. May take some time to get there. I wouldn't necessarily turn to a big bear yet in the markets. I'd rather wait for confirmation. The VIX is not broken out yet. It's still looking kind of weak, which is because of the market showing some strength. And the dollar, although this thing was pushing up high, we're forming kind of like a double top like formation. Now the dollar is showing a little bit of weakness right here. See, we had this top right here around this 104.5 area. Rejected. Now we're coming back up and kind of churning. If we lose 104.25, it could be dropping to about 104 flat. We're showing some weakness now, so it could start to sink. So be a little bit careful from here. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. I just want to make it clear that there's going to be a big move depending on what happens with our GDP numbers, but there is potential in SPY and the QQQ try to push a little bit higher based off what we're seeing so far on the charts and based off how we historically love to kind of like push on data. The market has been doing that. So watch your levels very carefully. Just know that this is what the market's looking like. Please remember to be calm, cool, and collected, and just know that this market has quite a bit of potential. All right, so we'll see how it goes. We could be seeing SPY retracing just a bit and trying to bounce, or it could drop a little bit more and then get that bounce depending on the numbers. But I do see a bounce and an attempt to go higher. We may be testing the all-time high soon, and then we'll see what happens from there. But with that being said, get ready for a little drop and bounce, and we'll see how the market does going into tomorrow. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day. Get ready for the GDP numbers, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning before the data comes out. Thank you for listening, and peace out.